Welcome to Q Talk Shop, where I sit down with designers, developers, and creatives, and we talk about the process. I'm Q, and I'm here with the developer of Escapeland, Matthew Coombs. Matt, how are you doing today?
Hello. Fantastic. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, man. You really popped off with that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, of
Uh, how
course, man.
how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I've been incredibly busy, as you can imagine. Not just with game stuff, but with life stuff. Uh, my wife and I actually just bought a house. We actually close on a house on next Thursday.
Dude,
So
let's
it's been,
go.
dude, it's been crazy. Buying a house and trying to launch a Kickstarter is definitely an interesting venture to do at the same time, but it's been rewarding in a lot of ways.
Dude, heck yeah, I'm glad to hear it. My wife
Thanks,
and
man.
I we got a house at the beginning of COVID, and like
Oh, awesome.
right before the interest rates like shot
Yeah.
up. So like we have like a good interest rate. Our mortgage is super affordable. The $10,000 we have to pay for a new roof isn't great, but home ownership
Hey.
home ownership is a scam, but it's the best scam to be a part of.
Agreed. So I am joining the club. I'm joining the scam.
Well, hell yeah. It's funny. So the first day we moved into the house, so we have a basement, and I'll send you the photo later. People call it the murder basement just because it's an unfinished basement with like a plywood wall just in between two beams. And I spray painted Q's Mod Shop on it, and then I spray painted a penis somewhere in the basement.
Wow,
And my wife
that's
still
funny.
has not found it yet, but she knows it's there, and she's very mad at me for it. Still to this day, 4 years later.
Well, if you can't see the penis, does it actually
That's
exist? You know
what
what I
I'm
mean?
saying. Schrodinger's penis.
Exactly.
All right. So, I got to ask you, I have some questions. I did some deep
Okay.
diving, a lot of Instagram deep dives. You put some interesting points on your Instagram that I had to ask about.
Okay.
So, January 1st, 2025, you used PowerPoint to make your first Escape Land card, Dragon Squad. How does it feel to go from a PowerPoint slide to just a full game?
Uh, Pretty crazy because even before the PowerPoint slide, they were actual just like on playing cards, and like I wrote numbers and effects on playing cards, and then ultimately ended up creating those like PowerPoint templates. And that's probably been the biggest change throughout this whole entire process is going from playing cards to making proxies in PowerPoint because I was so inept at Photoshop to now look, I'm not like a graphic designer by any means, but now every post that is posted now I make in like Instagram, or I mean I make in Photoshop, Canva, etc. But it's pretty insane to see where we were day one and where we are now. So definitely crazy.
I also know that your wife is your biggest playtester for the game
Yes.
because like it was day one, right?
Yeah.
That you sat down and started playtesting Escape Land.
Yep, day one, and she was the number one person. She was the test market, so to speak. Someone that's never engaged with trading card games outside of just knowing about them from me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the game was designed with that intent, and having her perspective and her insight to things has been invaluable in the process. 100%.
Well, heck yeah. Uh, do you have a lot of card game experience outside of designing, like in terms of just like playing?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first game that I fell in love with as a kid, of course, everyone got Pokemon booster packs when they were a kid back in the
Y-
90s.
Yours
But
was the Panini GBZ TCG, right?
so the first game was actually its predecessor made by Score.
Score? Yes. The
Yeah,
score one is
yes.
wild.
Yeah, so
It,
I played Score Z first, and I was younger at the time. Like I was like maybe like between the age of like 12 to 14.
Prime
And
Dragon Ball Z age.
yeah, exactly. So I was a huge fan then, but of course, like, and probably the part I miss about that age so much, and especially card games at that time, was like you only played or built decks with what you had, you
Right.
know? So that was my first foray into card games. In the Score Dragon Ball Z card game, to this day, those games are still my favorite games to play of all time, just because of the system is so unique. And at the time, I didn't know that. I just enjoyed how fun it was. And then after that died, I kind of took a break from card games up until the Panini game came out in 2014. And this time I'm a 24-year-old adult. We're 10 years down the pipeline, and I have money now. So,
It's
I
really a game.
instantly,
It's really a game changer when you have an adult wallet and you're like, I can buy that $40 card that
yeah,
makes my deck work.
yeah. And it wasn't even that, but it was also the traveling to events.
Right.
I when Panini came out, I really started gung ho on content first, and then after I saw the World Championships, and I saw because I commentated the World Championships for the first year, and when I saw the two best players in the game, which were Tim Bateau and Phil McGrath,
Mm-hmm.
and I watched them play, I was like, I want to do that. And then so I dedicated myself all through 2015 of trying to be the best Panini Dragon Ball Z player in the world, and I got pretty close. I had this crazy run where it was like all in a row. It was like a top 16, three top eights, and three top fours all back to back in terms of performance, and that kind of scratched my competitive itch. And I made it to the World Championships for that game, and that game died. And then I was left with Dragon Ball Super, and after a lot of back and forth, I started doing content for the Dragon Ball Super card game. And
That's
at
incredible.
the 3XG Productions YouTube channel, which is where I post all my Escapeland stuff now, that actually was my Dragon Ball Super YouTube channel originally. And I even had a successful Patreon. And ultimately, that, opened up opportunities and built relationships to where I got to start working in the design space.
Mm-hmm.
And working with Bandai on a game that I cannot disclose, but I worked on it for about over 10 sets, and I got to do a lot of great work, and I learned a lot about design mostly because when you're working for them as a contractor, I'm not involved in all the logistics or things like that. I'm just
Right.
here to make the cards, and then ultimately around 2020 2021, I opted to hop out of that space because I just really kind of want to, I call it go create my own puzzle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I started with my very first game, Runes of Ede. Is my first solo game. It's an expandable card game that is still being worked on, still in development, alongside of Escapeland, and I'm dusting that back off here soon because now with everything I've learned from Escapeland, I want to take that back and apply it to Runes of Ede and really give it the shot that it deserves. And then ultimately around 2024 is when I started working on Escapeland.
Heck yeah. So because you had such an ingrained nature with three different, Dragon Ball card games, did any of those games kind of influence your design space when you were approaching Escapeland?
So the thing about that I translated to Escapeland the most, and it's harder to like a lot of people won't necessarily pick it up when they're first playing a card game, even a resource based game.
Mm-hmm.
But I even applied this when I was playing Dragon Ball Super competitively, and now in design, the metric APT actions per turn, and the key to the Panini and Score Dragon Ball Z card games, if you were playing competitively, was how many actions can I generate in a single turn, and how can I keep this combat flowing until I have more resources than my opponent does. And so in Escapeland, you're rewarded for making the most of your actions every single turn,
Right.
and that was one of the things that I wanted to translate. Was I wanted to teach people about APT as a metric through this game, and it's pretty funny because some people may approach the game and think that the game is too simplistic, but I'll watch that person play and easily point out 9 to 12 times they could have made a different decision that alters the course of the game just by choosing the way that they did their actions. Um, so yeah, I would say the action point mechanic and the action phase in Escapeland definitely has some roots in Dragon Ball.
That I love picking up stuff from other games and just being able to incorporate it in like such an organic way too, because like
Hmm.
I'll be honest. I forgot the term APT even existed. I In the back of my mind, the second you said it, it's like a core memory unlocked.
Yeah.
Because when I was learning Yu-Gi-Oh, you know, Black Friday 2019, I know the
Hmm.
exact day I started playing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh. Um, somebody somebody who had played the older Dragon Ball games mentioned APT because they're like, listen, you have to be able to keep the flow of the game in your favor at all times. And like, if you think about, how many like your action economy and like how you can keep it in basically in your zone, then you're gonna be able to win much. You're gonna Words are hard. You're gonna be able to keep the game in your favor at all times.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that even goes into if you were to take that and extrapolate that to even just resource-based games like Magic the Gathering um, yeah, or the Dragon Ball Super card game and things like that is the more actions that you're doing per turn with the number of resources that you have. If I'm taking 3 actions per turn with my 3 resources and you're only taking 1 action per turn, I'm winning the tempo battle, right? Like
Right.
that's just how that works. So APT applies to a lot of things, but in Escapeland, APT is it's how you're spending your action points. It's how you're linking. It's all those things that are combined to and then how you're timing in which you're rescuing a monster so you can swing tempo back in your favor. All that stuff all calculates and add up to the beauty that is card games.
Absolutely. So, speaking of just, Escape Land in general, believe it or not, um, the win con of the game is fairly novel because you're trying to release your opponent's monsters. What made you decide to go that kind of path over more of a traditional win con like life points, or I mean, we even see shields being so prevalent these days now. Like, what made you decide to have your like free your opponents like basically another resource?
So originally, the actual idea or the way that the game played originally was you rescued your own monsters.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Oh, that would make it.
yeah,
That would change the gameplay significantly. Actually, now that I have
yeah,
a bunch of games under my belt.
it would make it more snowbally,
Oh,
right?
a
Because it's
hundred
like,
percent.
yeah, I'm winning, I'm getting the advantage. And it wasn't until a conversation with my friends, because we were basically playing the games out, and we very quickly picked up on the snowball effect. And one of my very close friends, um, Richard Zapp, shout out to Richard Zapp. He's also Richard Zapp is not only a great friend, I've worked with him, I play tested with him in all the games we played, and he is actually the head of design for the Cyberpunk TCG. So shout out
Whoa.
to, yeah, shout out to Richard Zapp, the GOAT. He was like, hey man, he was just like, what if you flipped and made it a comeback mechanic? And then all I had to do was I didn't even have to alter the text of the monsters that much. Ran a game with it, and immediately it was like this is the sauce because now it got
Everything just
exactly what
clicked.
it got exactly what I wanted, which was like I wanted the game to always feel close
Mm-hmm.
because tension is everything in gaming. Like if there's tension, then you have people engaged, people are hooked, etc. And so having those comeback mechanics and be able to use the monsters in that way not only gave me something that was like a fun experience, but also novel in the space too.
See that I love that stuff because a game that just came out by Archon Studios, the World of Tanks TCG, which
Hmm.
hilariously is its own game, and incredibly, that game smacks. Like that game's super fun.
Yeah,
They have a similar like mechanic of you're destroying your opponent's bases, they flip up and they get an effect as well.
that's dope.
Which is cool. I like to see because I playing a lot of Escape Land now, and then also playing World of Tanks. It it definitely feels like okay, yeah, you hit your 20 and you released one of my monsters. Now I have I can have an explosive turn. And I mean, you've seen my signature deck, Spooky Nuts,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
where I accidentally pioneered a way to a combo, which is still wild to me. That I helped show people. Yeah, you can kill any critter in the entire game,
Yes, you can.
and it was very funny.
Yeah.
Um,
I,
no, no, no. Go ahead. I apologize.
oh, no, I was gonna say the Vandals Wily Hop. Combo Bandle Hop is broken.
Bandle hop.
but
I
it, but
love it.
but I love it, man. You put it together, it costs you 3 action points. Why not be able to blow up anything? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Because like,
Yeah.
you go to that, you link, and then like potentially you can do something else, but like, being able to do the Bandle hop cannon is it takes your whole turn. So like you
Yeah.
have to be able to use it strategically.
Exactly.
It's like using a counter spell. Going back
Yeah.
to
Exactly.
Magic, it's like, when am I going to tap 2 blue mana and give my opponent the middle finger? Really? But speaking of critters, there are 4 critter types: dragon, ghoulie, fish pals, and snugglers. Uh, kind of some wildly diverse groups. Why these 4?
uh, why intensive? Like, why did I pick those like
Yeah, because like,
styles or?
I guess like those 4 categories. Because like, snugglers and fish pals. All right, that makes sense to me. You got ghouls, ghosts, and all that, and then just dragons. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love dragons. Dragons are cool, but they seem very out. They seem very like out there, but also, now playing a bunch, they seem very connected. Was there like an inspiration for picking those, or was it just like an organic decision?
Yeah, actually, so dragons. There's a couple of reasons why, um, but one of the main reasons was, again, talking about hangouts with like my close friends. So me, my buddy Richard Zapp, and then Frisco Foz, we were playing Kaijudo,
Oh,
and and one of
I
us and
love
one of us
Kaijudo.
and like Richard handed me like this like bomb ass dragon deck, and so I was just like, "Yo, big dragon, go boom boom." I was like, big, and so and, and exactly. So that became. I was like, well, obviously in Escapeland, one of the archetypes is going to be big dragons go boom boom,
Of
and
course,
that's exactly what the dragons are. Is
I
they're
can attest to that 100%. It's exactly
yeah,
what they do.
yeah, big powerful effects, big KO effects, big EP boost. So that was perfect for me. So I knew that I was going to incorporate that. Um, Ghoulies. So in the game Runes of Ede, I have the color purple as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I always tend to use purple as my 4th color. Um, one of the main reasons is because purple is my favorite color. So like
Respect.
I like I like to incorporate that into the game, and the purple color in Runes of Ede is Mystics, and Mystics are a discard pile based recursion, neat removal effects, things like that. And I wanted to take that, and then I also loved playing the early black style decks in the Dragon Ball Super card game, like Vegeks, which was like a mill based strategy, and
Mm-hmm.
like I also was playing some Yu-Gi-Oh at the time just for like getting playtesting data, and I love style based strategies there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I figured what better to do that with than, you know, things that thrive in the graveyard. And so that's why Ghoulies ended up being a part of the game, was because they would be the perfect embodiment of that style. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I super get that.
Yeah, and then Snugglers, they were originally called Nuggle Buddies, and that's because me and my wife, whenever we say like whenever we get on the couch to like hang out, we always say we're gonna go nug, um, and we always like, of course, we always nug with our dog Doug, and so they were gonna be called Nuggle Buddies because I wanted them to be the control archetype, but I wanted them in Escape Land. You don't have like you can't play cards on the other player's turn, so the best way to create disruption effect is tax effects. And I was like, well, what better way to name this group than to call them Snugglers, because they keep the game tight, because they don't have huge stats a lot of the time, and really the way that they win the game is by disrupting you and stopping you from doing things, because they just want to keep the game as close as possible. They want to stay snuggled up to you. And so that's how the Snugglers came to exist. And then with Fish Pals, that was just, to me, I love the ocean. I love water based critters, and they were the first archetype that was designed, and Shellock was the first card designed.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so for me, that was Shellock was the embodiment of it, because his original text was just like, if you have like it's same thing it is now. If you have, but at the time they were called fish friends. So it was like, if you have another fish friend in play, this critter gets +2. And that text basically has remained unchanged from day zero of creating Escapeland to now. And that immediately set the tone for what Fish Pals would become. And honestly, I think that's probably the trait that I'm the most proud of in terms of you play it and you get it, and it's so approachable, and the artwork for Fish Pals turned out perfectly. But yeah, that was the reason for Fish Pals.
Heck, I mean, it always feels, having like a wide variety of whether it be critters, monsters, golems,
Yeah,
dudes on bikes, whatever
yeah,
your little dude is in the game. It feels good to have like that variety because it makes it makes the world of the game feel alive. I know
exactly.
I know for me, uh I'm a big lore guy. I love the lore of the games I play. Uh you got any you got any lore tidbits about Escapeland that you want to share?
Yes. So essentially, the lore of Escapeland is that the number I like to call it. I mean, when I was talking to Z about it, it's pretty much like a mix of like Digimon, Pokemon, and like My Hero Academia. So,
Now,
um,
hold on. First two I get. We I feel like we took a hard right turn into the Waffle House parking lot here so we can talk about this. But I want to know the correlation so bad now. I am more hooked now than I was before.
okay. So the reason why is because you know how in My Hero Academia the number one job is to be a hero, right?
Yeah, of course.
So the number one job in Escapeland that people seek after is to become a guardian, which a guardian is essentially like a park ranger. And the reason why it's so important is that the monsters of each realm essentially are what stabilize the planet. They keep the planet going, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And what you are doing in Escapeland is you are essentially competing in trials because you're in a class with other people, your rivals, and you guys are training essentially for real life scenarios in which once you're out there in the wilderness, how you're going to protect monsters from falling into the hands of people that are trying to corrupt them or to study them or to try and take their power and use it for evil. Um, so that's essentially what the purpose of, and when you play a game in Escapeland, what you're actually doing is you're competing in a guardian trial, which is where you and one of your rivals have a band of critters that you've built relationships with, and you have monsters that you've already bonded with because that's the realm you want to protect. And you're essentially practicing in these simulated battles against one another. So then once you finish that, and once you graduate and you finish the trials and you're the top of your class, that is how you become the guardian elite, and that is how you essentially become a guardian slash park ranger. And now you go out into the wilderness with your band of critters, and you're there to protect the monsters of the realm that you're sworn to protect.
Now, follow up question: what are the benefits like of a ranger? Like, what's the healthcare situation like?
Fully guaranteed,
Excellent.
eh, best healthcare there is. Because it is beyond government healthcare, because essentially the monsters are the government, so you're taken care of, man.
Excellent. You love to hear that.
Yeah.
Uh, what's your design process when making a new card? Like, where do you start in the process of designing a new card for Escapeland?
Uh, so for me, it's actually pretty funny because I've picked this up from the way that I've not only designed Escapeland, but the way that I designed Runes of Ede, and then also when I did my work with Bandai. So I
On the
naturally
undisclosed game,
inherit.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I naturally have this tendency to where once I develop the cards within a given trader ecosystem, I basically know from there, because I always try to leave meat on the bone. So like when I designed base set one, um, it's incomplete, right? Like it's because this is just the very first set of the game.
Right.
And so now when I go back through and look through the card pool, I then get to start going looking for things that each of these need to become more and more complete. And so I'll do that's one part of it is how do I fill in gaps? Because if you were to start to go through and be like, oh well, Fish Pals, um, they have a hard time dealing with like X type of game plan. Well, I'll go through and I'll figure out a balanced way to develop to develop a card that helps address that issue. But there's another thing I like to do, which is I like design cycles.
Hmm.
So for instance, like in set two, one of the cycles that's going to be designed or is going to be a part of set two is basically like 2 action point cost base critters that have 3 escape point value, and on summon they'll have a primary effect, and then they'll have the kicker to that primary effect is once you fulfill that, then you get to actually peek at a face down monster.
Oh, see
And
that
so
that's cool. That
yeah, so
opens up a
like
lot of design space too.
exactly. And so part of what I do when I start my process is really that it's going through all the various cards that I currently have and finding out the holes that I essentially left there intentionally, and then going back and finding, I'll use the word balanced ways to address them, which typically balance to means is this card good? Is this card costed appropriately? Will this generate too big of swings, etc.? And then the other part of it is filling in those cycles to help progress and open up the design space that I want to continue further working with. And then otherwise it's designing the factions or designing the trait archetypes. So which also in set two, I'm working on dinos and robots. Um,
Sign me up for
and
robots. It's already going to be my number one played archetype.
oh, you're going to love robots so much. Um, they're so unique, and they've already opened up so much design space to be able to work in. um, and I already have those on proxied up on Tabletop Simulator, so we can try those out at some point.
Oh,
um,
snap.
yeah, but yeah, so that's typically my process is I go through the card pool, look for the breadcrumbs I left myself for the weaknesses, and then also I design my cycles ahead of time, so I kind of figure out what those are going to be, and then I pepper those in there too.
I gotcha. That's kind of a similar way I developed some stuff for Golomancy was I started out with, uh the core attribute has a base mechanic. How can I make that mechanic either interesting or just completely break it? Because I'm a big
Yep.
proponent of make the rules simple, make the cards complicated. That
Yeah.
way, that way, the game is easy to get into. But then now you have such layered interactions and intricacies. You're like, okay, now we're jamming, which is exactly what Escapeland has. Is very like
Yes.
in depth, deep combos, and you can do in people are discovering stuff constantly and posting about it in the Discord, and it's just cool to see people slowly becoming like, oh, you can do this, then this, then this, then this, and this, then link, then this, then this, and now I can score 20 points a turn. That's cool to me. Watching a game be slowly solved but not fully is fun.
Yeah, and that's probably the thing you're talking about has probably been the coolest part about having my wife as the number one playtester is seeing her go from day zero just learning what her cards did to now knowing what my cards do, preparing for her turns in which she knows that I could play X card to derail her, and then watching her insulate herself from that to stay ahead is probably one of the sickest things ever, because it's like she just went from like having no knowledge base of this at all to now it's like she's calculating risk, odds, like, and doing all this stuff unconsciously that she never was doing before, and seeing people do that. And that's probably the funniest thing is about, because I recently had someone try out the game and I just really don't like it. I just think it's too simple. And I was just like, hey, I know I hear what you're saying, but I also like I also think maybe you're just like maybe missing something. Like maybe you're just thinking that maybe you're just getting trapped by the system being so simple, because it
Mm-hmm.
is, right? Like
Yeah.
the action points or things like that, and you're missing out on every single time that you've made a decision and what it costed you, or anytime you chose not to play a critter and drew a card, or anytime you chose to buff instead of drawing a card, or how you did your links or what you were getting back from your discard pile. There's so many decisions to be made that oftentimes the system kind of spoils you because it's like, oh, well, this is so simple. But ultimately, when you start playing more, you definitely see a skill gap start to be created.
Yeah, I and also like people talk about how Fish Pals is going to potentially be dominating a lot of set one, and you know I'm out here. I'll say it first. I don't think that's true at all. I I am a Ghoulies stan. I definitely see the potential in discard do crazy effects, but also paired
Hmm.
with, I mean, we've seen Dragon Ghoulie kind of pop off. Once again, I'm a big fan of Spooky Nuts, which is Ghoulie and Snugglers.
Yep.
We've seen how that can just completely shut down legends just immediately. Like you've seen my deck list.
Yeah.
It's like legend hate. I'm trying to turn off a mechanic of the game and then just push hard with my own legends.
Exactly. And you're absolutely right. Like because I was playing dragons and ghoulies the other day, and the premise of the deck was basically just to like run your opponent out of basics.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just playing a bunch of spot removal, and like I don't care how much action points I'm spending to just like blow up your basics. I know that eventually you're just gonna hit a run of cards where you don't draw one.
Yeah.
And then you just now the tempo is just completely swung in the favor. So like see even the conversation we're having now, like there's there's depth, man. There's stuff going on and the metagame is unsolved. Um but you're right about Fish Pals, and like to me Fish Pals is like the level 1 deck because of it's almost like when it's a Panini Dragon Ball Z reference, but I don't know if you played that game. Did you end up playing Panini?
I have some baseline knowledge of the Panini and Score one. I played a lot of Super. I actually played Super 17 when I did play Super.
Yeah, yeah, you said that. Dope. So, but in the Panini Dragon Ball Z game, there was a deck that existed called it was Namekian Knowledge Piccolo,
Mm-hmm.
and the deck basically remained relevant for all time because it had a low like floor,
Mm-hmm.
but a really high ceiling depending on how good the pilot was. And so that's essentially what Fish Pals is Fish Pal has a very low floor, so if you're not very good at the game, you're going to be able to steal wins because of like the stats, like stats, raw power, etc. But if you're really good, then you're going to be able to get those extra win percentage points because you'll know how to use the cards, or you'll know how to construct the deck in a certain way to address the metagame. So I do think Fish Pals is like the level 1 deck of like set one. But then like Mono Snugglers, I think goes right over top of that, and then you start getting into the brews, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, and now you have this metagame that's just like drastically developing one layer on top of one another.
Dude, call me a barista because I like to brew. All right,
Same,
like
man.
I love brewing in games, but we were talking about the cards a lot. I feel like we need to talk about the biggest part of the cards, the card art. Now, there's two halves to this question, and they're very different from each other. So I just wanted to
Okay.
preface that. So the artist of the game is Jet Yates, who was attached to a project that had an unfortunate mark on card games as a whole. That being the original MetaZoo.
Hmm.
Do you think because Jet Yates had such a big association with that could potentially affect Escapeland and the Kickstarter?
So I do think that it's not necessarily Jet. Um, I do think it is the, because everyone calls it the Ken Sugimori art style.
That actually was
Uh,
the other half of the question. So, was the
yeah.
the
So
the nostalgic art style of it. So let's do all of it at once.
yeah. So I don't think it actually has anything to do with Jet. I do think that people see the Sugimori art style and they have a negative connotation with it.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that was one of my reasons for picking it. Is I just kind of want to take it back. It's like there's no reason why such it's such a beautiful art style. Like
Oh, I agree 100%.
yeah, and so there's no reason why there should just be this such a heavy negative association with it. I understand people will make that comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Um but to me, I love the art style so much, and I think it accomplishes one of my biggest goals was approachability. Like, people will see this art that are not card game players, and they will enjoy the art. And that is such an important part of Escapeland. Is this is a game for everyone. And there's no better way to make a game for everyone than to use an art style that has like some nostalgia built in, but at the same time, there's a lot of characters, or pretty much every character in the game is very fresh. It's new. It's someone that you get to build a relationship with on the very first day, and now you get to create new characters that you can be attached to, which a lot of people maybe never got the chance to back in the day. So I do think that there will be some negative impacts because of the things that you spoke about, the negative association to MetaZoo. Um, but I know that consistency and persistence ultimately wins out over time. And so I'm gonna stay the course. I am gonna work with more artists though.
Mm-hmm.
Not just yet. I already have two beautiful pieces that were done by AJ Uchoa, uh, who also worked on MetaZoo but has a different style.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those pieces are really going to shake up the narrative that people may have, because it's a picture of it's a dino and a robot that I just had done. Um, and I'll show you in private as well, and I think
Heck
you can give
yeah.
me some feedback, but
Private
yeah.
access, baby. Let's
Yeah.
go.
So I do think as I continue to work with more indie artists, which is one of my goals too, is to expand that portfolio, because shout out to indie artists, they need more work.
A
They're
1000% agree.
Yeah.
Support your indie artists. My God, support your indie graphic designers.
Yeah.
Support your indie website developers. Just collaborate with the homies. Make a new friend. Make
Exactly.
a new business partner. Well, not partner, but like a new business contact.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I do understand the risk that it's involved by using the art style, but I think there's a lot to gain by using it too.
Which you know, the first thing I thought of was the Ken Sugimori art style and stuff like that. You know, growing up with more Digimon involved. I'm a big Kenji Watanabe fan. I don't know if you've seen like the original Digimon World
Oh
art
yeah.
style. Literally one of my favorite styles of all time. And we just don't see enough of that,
Mm.
And I love that art style to death. But I you were very well spoken about your reason of why I like this. I think it will help. Yes, I will face pushback, but I want to take it back. And I mean, MetaZoo has done irreparable damage to the card game ecosphere. I don't blame any of the artists or like the designers or anything like that. I do blame the company as a whole because one day they're just like, yeah, we're just gonna shut doors.
Yep.
Which for anyone who has never heard of the story of MetaZoo, there are a ton of YouTube videos covering it. It is one of the most buck wild, like, it's one of the most buck wild stories. Sanrio's attached to it, which who
Hmm.
would have expected that? The big reason why MetaZoo went under was Sanrio pushing up the date of when they needed to produce the tie-in product. It
Yep.
insane.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I mean, and trust me, like the whole use of the whole MetaZoo saga. Trust me, I have studied it very closely.
it
I have, I have immersed myself in the stories of what happened, how it happened, what things all transpired, and it is very much a story of someone had this really great dream and tragically got built relationships with the wrong people, was influenced in the wrong ways, and lost sight of what that original dream was.
yep.
And before it was too late, all he could do was basically grab the lifeboats
And then dip
and
out hard.
exactly. And that is a story that most people need to understand, is that when you get into this, like, consistency and being persistent is incredibly important. That's why you'll hear me say the two words over and over again: accessible and approachable.
Oh,
That
100%.
That is the mindset of Escapeland through and through, and I'm never going to do something that compromises those two words.
Now, you know, if you ever want to come back on, I feel like you and I would just do great just talking about the story of MetaZoo because
Yeah.
genuinely one of the most fascinating stories in the card game sphere, probably next to the Upper Deck Yu-Gi-Oh debacle, which once again I would love to do an episode on that. Literally one of my favorite stories of all time in all of card games. If you're not familiar with it, we could talk about it later because it is incredible.
Yeah. No, for sure. We'll have to chat about it. But yeah, no, would love to come back on.
But something I want to do with all my guests is I want to ask the one simple question at the end: how do you define success with your project?
So, and this is funny because, especially because in the indie space that we're in a lot of chats, and a lot of Discord groups, and there's a lot of people that are talking about their game wanting to be successful, and I think some people, they need to figure out how to better label what that means, and so I'm glad you're asking that question. Success to me, to be honest with you, Q, I've already reached it. Um, I've created a game that people play and that people enjoy, and that is success to me. That is all I need to feel successful in doing this venture. And now the next step is, how do I help spread this world and this game to more people? Because the people that have engaged with it seem to really enjoy it. And I want to help bring that experience and new experiences that people have never had before to a larger audience, because TCGs have given so much to my life. And I just know that anyone who hasn't engaged with them but ends up doing so will not regret it. If anything, you're gonna build so many relationships from doing it. You're gonna find out things about yourself. You're going to find out a different side of yourself you didn't even know existed. Like, my best friends in the whole world are from the TCG industry, and I've had those relationships forever. And I want more people to have more moments like I had, man. Like, I remember going to my first convention for the first time to compete in my first convention tournament, and the feeling of seeing all those things and hanging out with like-minded people. Like, it's such an amazing thing to like find your tribe. And some people out there feel displaced, or maybe they don't have it, or they don't have a hobby. And I really want Escapeland to be that escape for them, that hobby that they can sit down, play with anyone they want to, and build those relationships and have those experiences. So, like I said, I'm already successful, but now it's, how do we get this to more people?
Incredibly well said. I very similar mindset myself of like card games have opened up so much in my life of like I've
Hmm.
met some genuine lifelong friends to just playing silly cardboard on a
Yep.
neoprene mat in a back room of a shop,
Yep.
and I will remember those moments for the rest of my life, and I hope I can share those moments with people because I think it's important. Card games have been some of the most accepting people I've
Yep.
ever experienced, and that it's special.
Yep. And every single time I design a game, it's my love letter to that experience. Like, Runes of Eve is my love letter to the resource-based games that I grew up loving. It's a love letter to the Magic content creators that I learned so much about game design from. Um, and so being able to design a game that's a love letter to those things is important. And Escapeland is kind of like this is my, I don't want to say this is it, right? This is when you design something and you immediately, the reactions that I got from it were so overwhelmingly positive that it was like, this is it, man. This is your shot. Like, if you don't go all in on this, and that's probably one of the hardest things that I faced with Runes of Ede. Was with Runes of Ede, I just lacked confidence to put myself out there. Whereas with Escapeland, I had no choice, man. I had no choice. It was too good to not do that with, to not go all in with. And so that's what this is. This is a love letter to designers, man. This is like, if you have an idea that you share with people and they enjoy it, if you don't put yourself out there, you don't get that feedback, you don't get people playing your game because you're afraid, like, this game is for you, because essentially I've already lived that experience once, and now I'm taking that lesson and I'm applying it to this game, and that's been life changing, man. The confident, like the changing confidence has been life changing for sure.
Hell yeah. Well, Matt, thank you for coming on, and I'm so excited for people to experience Escapeland. Do you want to talk about the Kickstarter real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is a Kickstarter happening for the Escapeland collectible card game. It launches on March 6th of 2026 this year, and we're gonna have a array of pledge tiers that people can pledge to. I'm trying to be as fair with pricing as absolutely possible. So all the tiers are modestly priced to be able to get people like get people into the game, make it accessible. We're gonna have some really solid stretch goals, and then of course, Z had the great idea of, instead of making the alt art crypt tag be a stretch goal, we just went ahead and make it a 100 backer award. So the first 100 backers will actually get a serialized monster card that will only be printed for this Kickstarter. It will not be printed ever again. So if you're looking to collect something cool, we have something there for you. And the game itself, it's a booster box game because it is a collectible card game, but all the chase cards are actually not, they are not mechanically unique cards. They are just alt art cards, full art versions of cards that are highly playable and story driven characters. So nothing too crazy. It's just, you have a great game. Booster boxes are going to be well priced. You're going to be able to, I mean, probably the best price tier is 85 bucks as like a booster box and two quick escape decks.
Which is
So
a great price point.
yeah, so people are going to be able to get in, get the cards that they're looking for, and it's done by a great printer, WJPC. The foils already look incredible. I'm so excited to see um, everything once it's finally done, especially the organized play cards that I'm working on currently and things like that. So I'm beyond excited to get the Kickstarter out there, and then of course, really start up that organized play because the Guardian League is coming. So stay tuned and make sure you follow along.
And we'll have the link to the Kickstarter and everything that below, and wherever we start posting this. Matt, thank you for coming on. This was a genuine treat.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, it's always a pleasure talking to you, Q, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to come on and do this, and not just talk about Escape Plan, but talk about games in general, because I love this stuff, man. So anytime you're looking for a guest, pencil me in.
I appreciate that. Thank you everyone for listening, and remember, make cool stuff.